Of course we should talk about politics. It affects everything. It's about us. This play is about us. Don't talk about the fact that Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security are all on the chopping block in some way. How would we not talk about that at the doctor's office? How are you going to pay for the visit? Hey, I'm Michelle. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner and a licensed clinical social worker. I currently practice as both a psychotherapist and as a prescriber. And when I'm not doing those things, and often when I am overthinking about everything. I am mostly overthinking about just like the ways that like all of this that's happening around us, like the nonsense, the societal chaos that we are descending into rapidly. I like to think about how that is affecting our health, our well-being, our mental health, our spiritual health, physical, everything, all the health. It's bad. And now that I've obtained a podcast mic, I'm going to make this all of our problem. So without further ado, let's go ahead and chat some more. So, like many other people, ever since January 20th, no reason for that date. It's just a random day I picked off the calendar, of course. I have been filled with this feeling of just like dread, and it's let up a little bit, but it still kind of like hangs there in the back. Yeah, it's felt like we've been non-consensually living in an episode of VEEP.
You here to spy, Jonah?
I'm not here to spy. I work at the White House, so I can just walk in and say, I'm from the White House. What are you doing?
And then sometimes it feels like we're living in like an installment of like the Saw series, like the Saw movies.
I want to play a game.
And sometimes it feels like both. It's usually both.
So I can just walk in and...
It's usually both. On the one hand, we're being gaslit constantly, which is not good for us, probably. We've got, folks in authority claiming that the reason for all of our problems are immigrants who are coming to take our jobs and our women. And, but then on the other hand, there's like an actual immigrant who's like not elected, is a private citizen somehow, he doesn't even really go here, who is going around and actually taking people's jobs and like bragging about putting them into a wood chipper. That's not something that a normal person does. That doesn't sound very patriotic. But whatever, nevertheless, we persisted. Yeah, so it's just like a lot of nonsense. It's a lot of like doublespeak. We're like stoking the flames of anti-immigrant sentiment while at the same time, if you have, $5 million or something it is that it's proposed, that if you have like $5 million or something, I have to double that it, you can get a golden visa. Like that's like one of the propositions right now, that you can get a golden visa and come here and start businesses and stuff. So that's where we're at right now. And like that same immigrant who like doesn't even go here gets tons and tons of like subsidies to run his business. And in case you haven't checked recently, his business is not going so great. Actually, none of our economy is going so great right now. Everyone was promised that eggs were going to be like super cheap or something. And so we thought it was cool to like sell at our fellow countrymen for that. But That's neither here nor there, I suppose. So you've got all that going on. Then, most recently, we've got a bunch of dude bros, our elected officials, hanging out in a Signal chat, just kind of brandishing about emojis with abandon, and inviting journalists in unwittingly to witness that, our colorful use of, our modern day hieroglyphics. And we're using those emojis to celebrate that we've, dropped bombs on people. And we're also using Signal to go ahead and plan, how to drop those bombs, and then going in front of Congress and saying, no, we weren't who's doing war planning here? There's no, where's the war planning? I don't see any war planning. The gaslighting is wild. Like, I can see and hear. God can see you. It's like, it's just crazy. And, yeah, I mean, the constant blunders are just unreal. Okay, the sadism is unreal. The gaslighting is unreal. This all just feels so unreal. Help me. I feel like Jasmine Crockett said it the best when she was like, yo, if this is a nightmare, I need someone to slap me and get me out of this nightmare. Like, I feel like she really does speak for me. But yeah, I mean, during the first couple of weeks post-inauguration, I took to bed. I took to bed the way that a Victorian era woman would when she needs a good fainting couch and smelling salts, okay? I was down bad. I was down real bad. And I couldn't put my finger on exactly why, but I don't know, there was just this heaviness and it felt like the world was ending basically. And everything just felt really hopeless and sad, and my patients and I would just kind of sit across from each other like, I don't know, how are you doing with all of this? Is it, you doing okay? Can I be helpful in any way? I feel like a damn fool, okay? Because, like, you can't cognitive behavioral therapy this away. It would be unethical to. I know that there are some people out there who probably are trying to, and we need to get those folks out the field. But yeah, you can't CBT this away. You shouldn't. And you also can't medicate this away either, and you also shouldn't. Do I sometimes help medicate people a little bit to like soften the edges a little bit so that they can like function and think and be like cognizant in the world while all this is going on? Yes. 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 Because it's all I can do, right? And also I can be a witness and sit with people through all of it and, just kind of like be this person in the passenger seat with them. And I can also share, a little bit of like what I am feeling hopeful about, right? So yeah, I mean, even though things are still pretty trash right now, that's the clinical term. Things are pretty trash. I feel a little better. My hope is like a little bit more renewed because I'm seeing the ways that people are banding together to help each other and to speak out and to speak up. And I feel really heartened by that. Like, I don't know. This is probably why they're trying to get rid of the PBS, because I was a real PBS kid, okay? When Mr. Rogers said to look for the helpers, I took that personally. And I feel like that's what's making me feel a little bit better these days. I'm looking for the helpers, and I am trying my darndest, okay, to be the best helper I can be. But it is hard right now. It is really hard. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like right now my function is just to like, on the micro level, which isn't so micro, right? Because every time you touch somebody's life and interface with them, like that is huge. There's nothing micro about that. But I feel like, yes, on the more individual level, my job is to be with people in this moment of extreme suffering and to help them to figure out, what are the ways that they can kind of reclaim their power back, and like also just offering what we know, right? We know that community is part of the cure. We can't do this without one another, and we can't get through this without one another. Like, community is going to be one of the biggest things that saves us and gets us through this time. So I share that, and I try to find ways to kind of like push folks into community with one another and just like really encourage it. Have I said community enough today? Should we play a little drinking game? No, no, no. Okay, I don't promote that. I don't promote unhealthy coping. Oh, but if you're, okay. Anyway, irreverent. Okay. But yeah, I mean, so that's how I see things for me on the individual level. On the more like, on the bigger level, I see my job as like, I need to do whatever I can to advocate for people who are really vulnerable right now. And maybe this is one of the ways. Perhaps. Things are so scary, and I'm wondering if perhaps sharing with you a little bit through my lens as like a clinician and as a person also who's like walking through the world with like multiple intersectional identities that are being like bam bam bam, like just like totally vilified. I'm a proud DEI in many ways. Yeah, so I figured I could offer my lens a little bit to try to humanize things for folks maybe who haven't been impacted yet directly, because it's coming, all right? It's coming. It's coming. When Zelensky told us we were going to feel the pain, that wasn't a threat, okay? That was a promise. And it wasn't like a threatening promise, like, oh, he's going to make us feel the pain. No, it's like we're going to feel the pain of our, we're going to have to feel like the consequences of our own actions. And that's, first of all, I didn't do anything. Like, why am I in this? How am I in this now? Okay, but whatever, we're here. So yeah, so I see my job as largely like, what can I do to try to, on the broader level, make things better for people who are vulnerable and who I am purporting to help on a more individual level. So what I want to talk about today is like just, I guess, first off, like this idea of not getting political, right? So I think that there's this misconception that if you are a healthcare provider or if you're anyone in polite society, you're not supposed to bring politics into the room. You're not supposed to talk about politics. But let's talk about what politics are, right? And like how it became so taboo to even like talk about it. I'm gonna read this. So I went to Catholic school all my life, and when we had to do like debate or whatever, people love to start debates. Like, I'm from the era people would start debates with like, in Merriam-Webster, politics is defined as, so I should read it like that. I won't, I'll spare us. Okay. The word politics derives from the ancient Greek term politica, meaning affairs of the city-state. It is derived from polis, meaning city-state. Meaning, politics encompasses a wide range of activities and processes that relate to the distribution of power and authority within a society, the organization and functioning of government, the relationships between government and citizens, the resolution of conflicts and the promotion of cooperation, and the pursuit of public policies. The concept of politics originated in the city-states of ancient Greece in the 5th century BC. Philosophers such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle theorized about the nature of the ideal state and the role of the government. Aristotle defined politics as, quote, the art of getting things done within a community. He believed that the purpose of politics was to achieve common good, or what he called the telos of society. Over time, the concept of politics evolved to involve the broader aspects of governing societies and the relationships between nations. Today, politics is a complex and multifaceted field that encompasses a wide range of actors and institutions at local, national, and international levels. Thank you. So that's the definition of politics. Not so scary, right? Okay. So here's the thing. This idea of it being impolite to talk about politics comes from my girl, who is not my girl, really. Okay. Well, actually, no, it's not really her fault. Okay. So it comes from Emily Post. She was this like society lady who used to write about like etiquette and which fork to use at dinner to confuse us all. Yeah, what era was she from? Oh my God, this girl's from the 20s. Why are we listening to this girl from the 20s? And okay, so she wrote this book called Etiquette in Society, in Business, in Politics, and at Home. And what had happened was she in this book said that you should probably, in mixed company, if you're at the dinner table, try to avoid discussing things that are going to get people all riled up and upset and all of that, right? And make people uncomfortable, because we have to be comfortable. Everyone's got to be comfortable. We have to be comfortable. We're all going to be deeply uncomfortable soon if we don't stop. Anyway, it reminds me basically of what we do with adages, right? So like, like sayings that everyone just knows and then kind of just like repeats to make a point. So, for example, jack of all trades, master of none. We interpret that adage to mean that like, oh, if you want to run around and try to do all these different things, then you're going to be a jack of all trades, but you're not going to be able to concentrate on just like one thing and get really good at it. Guess what? Guess what? There's a second part to that adage. Did you know that? The second part of the adage is this. So it's jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than master of one. Okay, so it means actually the opposite. So we've been running around teaching people only like the first part of adages. So now back to Emily Post. I promise this has a point. So Emily Post, right? So she says like, don't do this at the dinner table. Don't do it at the dinner table. When people are going to get uncomfortable. However, she said basically, if you're going to be talking to people in a proper setting, yeah, talk about politics. What else are you going to talk about? It's literally like the stuff that's going on around you. So that's why I hate when people say that phrase where they're like, oh, I don't want to get political. Not to be political. Be political. It's literally about you, girl. Like politics are about you. And I think also what makes it such a dirty word, or like, almost seeming like a slur to talk about politics, is that, society has made it into a game. Like it feels like a game, especially the way that we talk about it. We talk about them as political races and there's opponents. Like that is just so not how we need to be framing things. We need to be framing things more so like what would we like to see together in society? Okay, cool, great. Let's all come together and decide what's best. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. This is just me shooting off the top of my head, but like I'm wondering if was it easier to get people engaged civically at some point in time if they felt like it was a game or something? I don't know. But it's not working now, because now it's like, oh, we can't talk about politics. It's going to get political. And I guess like the thing that I question is who benefits? Like, if you're going to say, let's not get political, or politics needs to be, taken out of like certain places, it doesn't have like a place in the exam room or the, psychiatry provider's office or your therapist's office, then spell it out. Spell it out. I challenge you to spell it out. The same way that the folks who are going around acting like DEI has a hard R at the end of it, and just brandishing that term about, and we're kind of challenging them to say, no, say what you mean. Say, I hate diversity, equity, and inclusion. Don't just walk around saying the shorthand for it. Then we should really think about the word politics is just a shorthand. And if you're going to say that you're not going to get political or that politics don't belong someplace, spell it out, okay? Spell it out and say the business of getting things done doesn't, belong in the room with us, or that, let me pull up my definition again, because my memory is not, this cannot be the same brain I went to school with. Spell it out and say, the relationship between government and citizens doesn't belong here. We shouldn't talk about it. The resolution of conflicts and promotion of cooperation, we shouldn't be talking about that. Not to get all resolution of conflicts and promotion of cooperation-y. That sounds ridiculous. Not to talk about the pursuit of public policies. That's wild. Of course we should talk about politics. It affects everything. It's about us. This play is about us. I've composed myself. Now, here's why it's so important. I promised I would listen. It's the executive function, okay? It's the executive function. So the reason I think it's so important is that it impacts everything. Think about all the things that are at stake right now and in whose best interest it is that we don't talk about it. Don't talk about the fact that Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security are all kind of up for debate right now and on the chopping block in some way. Don't talk about that. How would we not talk about that at the doctor's office? How are you going to pay for the visit? Don't talk with your friends about the fact that they are considering getting rid of the telephonic option for accessing the folks over at the Social Security Administration, so that the folks right now who are most likely to be accessing Social Security right now, so people who are older, listen, I have met some tech savvy, seniors, okay? I remember I met a senior who I was like, hey, did you want to get Life Alert or something? She's like, no, girl, I have an Apple Watch and it has fall detection. I didn't have a Apple Watch yet. You go. So, yeah, there are plenty of seniors who are super savvy, but is that the large portion of our geriatric population? Probably not. Okay? They're on the phone. And so if you take away the option to get on the phone to conduct your business with the Social Security Administration, then you're going to have a lot of people who have lapses in benefits. And it's already it takes a long time to get somebody on the phone with Social Security. When I help clients with that, literally we will call at the start of the appointment, put it on speaker, put it to the side, and listen to the hold music and be like, just rock out to the hold music. And then probably by the end of our appointment, maybe somebody answers. So the solution probably isn't to further cut staff or to remove that option. Just a thought. Unless they're going to like run around doing like technology trainings or something for seniors, which would be great. We need more digital literacy, but that's a whole other video. And I promise we can go there if you want to. We can. I love, oh, child, do I love a research rabbit hole. Okay. Okay. So, so that's important. Um, yeah, Medicaid and Medicare, Social Security, all those things. Also, very recently, um, as in like I think 2 days ago, it was announced that the CDC is going to claw back um, like $11 billion from like money that they had distributed to state um, departments of health. And initially, that money had been for COVID response, right? But it was like under this broad umbrella of infectious disease. And now that, COVID's like a little bit more under control, people are still getting the vid, all right? Folks are still getting the vid. Mask up, girl. But like now that things are a little bit more chill, um, folks have been using that money for other things, like tracking and surveillance of avian flu. Would you like to eat chicken again? I thought you were so concerned about eggs. Yeah. But anyway, so also there's thoughts about like um decreasing funds for HIV prevention. We are not out of the woods with HIV right now. Did you know that? People are still getting HIV and they still need prevention and treatment. Um and when the AIDS crisis first hit the US, the response was very like just blah de blah, like, oh, well, that's what they get, right? Because it was like mostly like young, like gay men who were getting it. But guess what? People have always had diverse sexualities, and also there have always been multiple ways to um, transmit certain viruses. And it did not just stay with gay men, right? It spread to other people. And that's what made people care and like mount a response to HIV and AIDS, which is, I mean, that's kind of really sad, actually. Like, we should just care about like we should care, even if it's like a smaller population. My camera battery's about to run out. So let me, whatever, speed this up a little bit. Other things on my mind about politics, care for trans folks and like LGBT folks. We can get into this more in depth in another video, but like healthcare for trans folks is medical care. It is life-saving care. Okay. And I promise you, we will make a video on that because that's something I care very deeply about. So putting that up for debate as if it's something that like is debatable or questionable is wild. And all the rhetoric that's coming out right now about like that's basically emboldening hate of groups that are already so vulnerable and targeted, like the trans community, like immigrants, like making the world vastly more unsafe for them. People are afraid to leave their houses. People are watching entire like apartment complexes get scooped up by ICE. People are getting snatched up off the streets by ICE. People who are green card holders because they spoke out or like dared to like attend a protest or something once. Okay. This is bad. And I would say that like, if you want an even more direct connection to why this stuff is so terrible for our mental, see what I did there? Look no further than like, okay, if you are someone who gets many news alerts each day about all the schmuckery that's going on, um, pay attention to how you feel in your body. Okay? Pay attention to how you feel in your body each time one of those alerts comes up. Does your breath kind of catch in your chest a little bit? Does your heart start racing a little bit? Are you anticipating the worst? That's mental health right there. Okay? Those are some symptoms of like a little anxiety distress popping up, surfacing. Also, there have been at least 2 instances of folks deciding to end their lives over rhetoric from this administration. There was a trans military member who did this. There was also a young child who ended their life. I don't know what you're allowed to say on here. Because she was made fun of in school about being an immigrant and like about having like immigrant parents. It boggles the mind how folks who, run on this platform where they're like making people pray in the chambers of Congress after like stripping everyone's rights away, after like voting to strip everyone's rights away. That in and of itself is like its own cognitive dissonance thing. But it just boggles the mind that the same folks who say that they are such devout, like Christians and people of faith, would have such little empathy, and then actually go on ahead to say that, like, didn't like, I think Elon. I hate saying any of these people's names, but he'd said something to the effect of like, oh, like empathy is like the like major pitfall of Western civilization or something. But then he has the nerve to be like crying on TV because people don't want to be with their besties in a Tessie no more. Girl, please, girl, get up. Girl, get up. Are you please be so for real right now. Please be so for real right now. Please be so for real. Basically saying that empathy is a bad thing to have or we shouldn't have it. When I'm pretty sure like that's like kind of the main thesis of the Bible. Empathy, like loving your neighbor and whatnot. Not in a gay way, even. I think it should be, but you don't have to if that's a touch too far. And another thing, I think it's so interesting, right? Because like that really is like such a far right talking point about empathy. Like whenever I've been trolling the Reddit subs and stuff, yeah, I admit it. I be in there lurking, but I don't comment because I have decency. But I do just like to know what people are thinking on the other side because I think it's important that we don't live in like an echo chamber, right? Not so much so that I can get like influenced or anything like that because I still enjoy being like a person with a conscience and whatnot. But like, I don't know, it's just important to understand, I think, like where folks who think differently are coming from and just how they came to those conclusions. It beats me, but I think it's important to know. And so, yeah, when I'm in there, people will say things like, oh, it's the left trying to like manipulate us with their emotions again. Okay, but like emotions are kind of like the biggest part about being human. And if you're not making decisions about, like from a place of having empathy for your fellow like citizens and stuff, then like what is the point of having a state? Because basically I think the way that party is constructed right now, or like the main messaging kind of that party right now through their actions, is that the state exists to like pay indulgences to corporations. So I don't know. I personally think that the state should have like some kind of stake in like our well-being or whatever. Like I don't know. It's a crazy idea. Communist. I'm not a communist. I'm not. Please don't put me on a list. I mean, it's cool. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into it. Please leave me alone. I've done enough. Um Yeah. So, yeah, guys. I mean, honestly, this was initially just supposed to be a fun little girly pop podcast that I was going to do with a co-host, and we will get to that. I promise, okay? Girly pop supremacy. That's like the one thing that I'm really passionate about. Um, but first things first, right? This felt really important to talk about. And I'm going to keep coming back to some of these topics time and time again because it's very important for us to just talk about like politics it's not a dirty word. We need to stop regarding it that way. Politics is literally about us. This play is about us. And we need to talk about it because the people who benefit from us not talking about it are the ones who are trying to take all of our like rights and entitlements, okay, we are entitled, away from us and divert them over there while we're like looking away on Temu. So IJS. What else? Last thing. I feel like there was something else I wanted to get to. I don't remember. It's okay. We have plenty of time. I'll come back. This was an investment, so you'll be hearing from me again. Yeah. I hope this was somewhat like enjoyable, informative, something. And if it was, like, comment, subscribe. I've always wanted to say that in earnest, and I'm so glad I get to now. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, bye.